Thank you, Kevin. It's so exciting to see the pictures of the Morganton campus. It is right off 40. The last time I was headed to Asheville, I just stopped in and drove around. It's stunningly beautiful, and as an alum myself, it's so exciting to think about the next campus and 300 more students that will have a chance to be part of what I think we all know is the best high school in the state of North Carolina. Todd reached out to me a couple weeks ago and asked me to be here. It's an honor to talk to you. Thank you for coming. Todd asked me to just share a little bit about my entrepreneurial story. I'm an entrepreneur here in the Triangle, and my entrepreneurial adventure started at Science and Math, which is kind of crazy. I've now been lucky in the last 20 years. As Todd informed me, my 20-year reunion is coming up this fall, which is kind of surreal for me. But I've now had the chance and been lucky enough to start 3 companies here, which have been awesome. And it all started on Science and Math campus, 21 years ago at the start of senior year. I lived, we had that picture earlier of Governor Hunt, who played a huge role in starting this amazing school in 1980. I actually lived in Hunt's dorm. So this is a picture of Hunt dorm, for those that don't know it. I lived on 2nd West. And one of the amazing things about Science and Math is that it brings kids together from all across the state. And I would never have met this guy on the left there, Taylor Brockman, if I hadn't gone to the School of Science and Math. Taylor was from Shelby, North Carolina. And at the start of our senior year, we started a project that took on a life of its own and became the first company that I started, a company called Motricity. And the long and the short of that first adventure, what was a project in our dorm room, and then the project took on a life of its own, and it actually prevented us from really going to college for very long. Basically, we sort of kept thinking the company was bound to fail, and we'd go back to college, and it just kept going. And it was a 9-year adventure for me. Basically, long before the App Store and the iPhones that we carry around. Back when you had those flip phones like the Motorola Razr, we built essentially the App Store so that you could download all those ringtones. And our first customer was Singular, and then AT&T. And by the time it was all said and done, we signed up pretty much all the phone companies in the U.S. and Canada, and sold quite a few ringtones. So we got really lucky. And because of the luck that we had there, we were able to get back a little bit. Taylor and I, so I don't know, for those that maybe don't realize this or remember it, when you are at Science and Math, you cannot have a job. Is that still the case? Yeah. And it's probably a good thing because it's a really hard high school. I mean, the curriculum is pretty rigorous. It's probably, good that you're focused there. I think the problem we were trying to solve with the Bowman Brockman Endowment was just to provide a source of funding for supplies, projects. Maybe if someone wanted to start a company, it could help them out. And so, it's been a really fun adventure. So far, we've funded more than 50 scholars, given them a little bit of funding to take their project to the next level. This is some of the students that have received funding over the years. One of the fun ones is we funded a rocketry team a couple times, I think. So, they build some really cool stuff and try to send it out into space. And so I was able to go into my second startup after the first one. It's easier to raise capital for your second company if the first one survives. And so I was lucky that the investors backed me again. And we had this idea. By this point, the App Store had been created. We started this company after Apple launched the App Store, and we saw the number of apps, growing and growing into the thousands, hundreds of thousands, and then millions of apps. And so, if you build an app, will they come? Like, how do you get discovered in an app store that's crowded with millions and millions of apps? And so we built an ad network to help other apps get discovered. And we served a ton of ads for other apps on the early smartphones, and ended up driving over 100 million app installs. The biggest one was Candy Crush, if you remember that. We helped them expand in like 20 different countries around the world. We were one of the first partners helping promote Uber and Lyft, and hundreds of other apps. I think by the time we got acquired in 2015, we had helped drive installs for 2/3 of the top 100 apps in the App Store. So it was another, really lucky experience for me. And right now, I'm working on my third startup. We are 3 years old. It's called Sift Media. And it's in a very similar space to my first two companies. They've all been, mobile software-related startups. We started Sift Media based on an idea that had actually we had gotten at my second company, Appius. And it was this realization that we all have a bunch of apps on our phone. The average person has 41 apps. And that stat is actually a little outdated. It's actually closer to like 70 or 80 apps now. And you don't use them all, but the idea we had is if we could find a way to figure out the apps that are on your phone, that is sort of, like a unique fingerprint of who you are. Like the probability that any one of us in this room have the exact set of 70 apps it's not, everyone's different combination. And just like Facebook knows the things you like because you've liked all this stuff and shared all this stuff on Facebook, and Google knows what you search for when you do searches, we thought, well, if we can figure out the apps that you like, maybe we can use that to target ads as well. And so, and as an entrepreneur, I'm attracted to big markets. This is a huge market for Facebook and Google. And so we set out on a vision to basically try to collect the app data for every person on the planet. We're at 2.4 billion people so far. So we've got, we're getting pretty close to that goal. The odds are pretty good that everyone in this room is in our profile database. We do collect this stuff. You probably read a lot about privacy. It's been in the news. Sift Media likes to stay a little more under the radar, but that's because, like in Europe, it's really hard. We are GDPR compliant. It makes our life a lot harder. There's a lot of legislation coming out in California. We're keeping a close eye on. So you have to do this in a very careful way. And it is completely anonymized. So like you might be in my database, but we have no idea who you are. And we follow all the rules and regulations and think it's really critical. But we've got data on billions of anonymous people, and we know the apps that are on your phone and a bunch of other data points, probably about 70 data points for each person. And we use that to hyper-target ads. That the idea is that they're really relevant. And this is where the data science comes in. It's a complicated data science problem to build those predictive models, and you have to do it so quickly. We sift through about 50 billion ads a day right now. We've served 40 billion ads, and we're using it primarily to deliver app installs. Again, that's one of the biggest markets for advertising on phones. Our team is 15 people. They're almost all people I worked with at my first two companies. It's the smartest team I've ever worked with so far. And the way that we get access to all these ads is that all the ads that you see across the internet and in apps are auctioned off in real time on these RTB exchanges. Think of it as like maybe like a big NASDAQ or NYSE for all these ads, and they're traded really fast. The biggest exchange is operated by Google. The second biggest exchange is operated by Twitter. Facebook is not an exchange. They're sort of a walled garden. They do their own private exchange. But we have a seat on the exchange, if you will, for the 12 largest of these. And that's how we are able to see 50 billion ads a day. And our basic idea was that once we collected all that profile data, the 2.4 billion profiles, and knowing all these apps that are on your phone, is that we could target ads, as accurately as Facebook, but do it in the 400,000 other apps that are big, that are out there, the apps that we all use. And so that's essentially what we're doing. And we're doing this on a global scale. I guess in January, we had revenue in over 123 countries. Probably not that surprising that the US is our #1 market, but the fastest growing is India, which is the second largest market, 23% of revenue last month. Indonesia, Japan is #4, I think. The other thing is we're making a huge push this year into China. We just established a subsidiary in Shanghai. We have a couple of people there and are really focused on expanding into the Chinese market. Our customers are the ad agencies. So we work with about 100 ad agencies now, companies like this that you probably never heard of. But these agencies are the ones that work with the brands that you have heard of. So we've served thousands of campaigns now from everyone from Amazon to Zynga. And from a technical standpoint, 50 billion a day, we're processing 1.5 billion, $1.5 trillion ads a month. We have 3 data centers, US East with AWS in Virginia, Singapore, which is now our biggest, about 60% of the volume comes out of the Singapore data center. And we're launching Beijing right now. We have the data center turned on. We're going to be ramping that up in the second quarter. And I think the thing that's tough is that, when you see an ad, it has to load instantaneously, right? We have about 120 milliseconds to be able to respond to Google to say, do we want that ad space, which ad to show the user that's relevant? And you have to be able to scan through, 2.4 billion profiles, do the probability map to figure out based on the data we have which ad to show, what is that ad worth, to price it. And that's the part that makes it fun. So, math modeling was probably one of the more impactful classes in science and math. And so, yeah, I'll end on that because I know we have a panel too. So thank you guys for the chance to talk.
Wow, thank you, Judd. My name is Brock Winslow. I'm our Vice Chancellor for Advancement, and I'm going to ask the members of our panel to come up and take a seat here at the table, and I'm also going to ask which to really explain for our last speaker. So meanwhile, Judd, come on back up here after you have a couple bites of food, and Akash, sorry. I'm going to ask Akash, Shraddha, and Eric to all come on up, and we will, when seated, we'll begin this introduction. And my only role up here is that I know nothing about this particular topic, but I'm going to try to keep us on time. So I'm so grateful to our panelists. Judd, thank you so much for your presentation and your great yourself. And why don't we, beyond Judd, scoot down and go through Shraddha, you to your right, and you guys introduce yourselves. Just where you're from in North Carolina, your year at time.
My name is Shraddha, and I graduated from Science and Math in 2014, and I now live in Raleigh, but grew up in Charlotte.
And you should probably, I'm sorry, I should please tell us about just your 1 to 2 minute elevator pitch on.
Yeah, and I'm currently working on a startup called Freshfire. It was actually planted as Science and Math, but as everyone in the startup space knows, the company is not going to be what it was when it started, what it is now, but we're still in the same space. Our team is mainly Science and Math people, but basically what we do is we're an online local wholesale food marketplace. So how does farm fresh food get to your grocery stores? How does it go to restaurants? And our main mission is to reduce food waste. We provide real-time communication of what's available and what people can buy on a weekly basis. So we just got our first big customer this month, so we're really excited about that.
Hey, so my name is Akash Ganapathy. I'm class of 2010 from Science and Math. So my company is Trill AI. We're in the financial technology space. We use artificial intelligence to do risk modeling for hedge funds and large mutual funds. Essentially, we look at a lot of data like financial statements, macroeconomic data, news, to assess what factors are going to be risky for the market going forward. And we do that using deep neural networks. So we get a bit more insight than traditional quantitative. We signed the second largest hedge fund in the US with a few other clients. It's been about a 4.5-year journey so far.
I'm Eric Troyan, and I keep telling Todd I'm going to stop doing this because I'm the old person at the table every time. But I was science and math class in 1991, like John, I'm actually on my third startup, and third one was a company called Pendo in downtown Raleigh. We're about 300 people. And we work with folks who build applications and web communications. People use them for longer. Really business to business applications, probably getting to use it.
Great, thank you for those introductions. And Eric, we'll start at your end of the table and work back this way. But just as we get started with this conversation, knowing that you all have in common your high school experience at the School of Science and Mathematics, and then I think, at least several different collegiate experiences. Reflect back a bit about how your experience in science and math is formative to what you do now, and also throw in any other experiences along the way for 3-4 minutes.
Sure. So, people will look at me a little funny when I say the most important thing I've learned in science and math is how to write, how to communicate. The science and math school was an excellent humanities department, and I was fortunate to have an English teacher my junior year who really opened my eyes and taught me that writing actually mattered, and it wasn't just all about math, and it wasn't all about science. And in order to be sitting at this table as a leader, you have to be able to communicate with people around you. And we've all seen the stereotypical people, the freshmen in high school, really strong at math, but they can't communicate very well. Learning how to communicate in a written form and not just an oral form, learning how to be up in front of 120 people and speak without stumbling over your tongue like we do. It's something that comes out of science and math because of the leadership opportunities and the breadth of the experience of each. And I've had to do a lot of written communication in my career, whether that's an investor pitch, whether that's articles for magazines. So having kids learn to do that and having them learn to do that in a comfortable environment with a lot of other smart people, I think is really important. I did I went to NC State. I did a computer science degree, science and math. That's something where I went to science. By the time I got to NC State, I was going into advanced classes. I wasn't doing the intro classes. I wasn't doing a lot of one-on-ones and one-on-twos. So when I came out of science math that I went on in my career, I had a lot of graduate classes, got a graduate degree because of that acceleration it gave to me, and I got to work on interesting, hard problems that were frankly probably a little beyond most 21-year-olds. And that head start it gives you, that extra push it gives you. It's not just about the class, it's about the people who you're with, the people who are helping you learn, the teachers and the other students.
Absolutely. When we talk about formative experiences, pretty much every science and math alum I know talks about science and math as the most formative experience of their life, despite their entire careers that have been incredibly successful, such as Eric and Judd. And I think everyone in this room probably knows, except maybe Shada, how hard it is to know what you exactly would want to do when you're really young. She's ahead of the game. But I definitely did, and I think science and math offers such a wealth of opportunity while you're there. You can really explore everything and really discover what passion really means. I think I didn't know the difference between hard work and passion until I went to science and math and came out of science and math. So, I was doing all kinds of stuff. I did the Singapore International Math Contest, actually, got second place there. Got a first place medal in National Science Olympiad, polar opposite stuff. Was also computer science, but did research in chemistry. I was all over the map, and I did varsity tennis, all this kind of stuff. And the whole point was I discovered that actually what I really like to do is computer science. That's where the hard work comes naturally. That's where I feel like I want to do something extra, and I couldn't discover that anywhere else.
Yeah, I think my experience with science and math, two things that really formed what I'm doing right now is one, the people I met, and then two, I actually got my entrepreneurship at science and math, and with my co-founder right now, was actually so it was really nice, like connection with also later into science and math. It's just like that community that I know, like we want to stay after, and I did electrical engineering, and knowing other science mathers there, knowing who I can go to ask them for help, advice, or even to go to my team, huge. And with the introduction to entrepreneurship, I don't think I would have found myself sitting in the office at electrical engineering. I didn't even have the exposure in the first place that this is like a possible career path for me. This is something that can actually happen. I can actually start a company. I can actually try things out. And if I didn't even put myself out there and try things out, try to solve a problem that I was passionate about and wanted to solve, and failed a couple of times, and, still learning a lot, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. So I feel like it was a great to
Just to add to that, I agree with everything you just said. Like science and math made us believe anything was possible, that we could do anything. And Taylor Brockman, who I started the first company with, he and I only had 2 classes together. I remember we were in orchestra together. Science and math actually has a great orchestra, and we were in applied electronics. I think that was the name of the class. The professor was someone named Chuck Britton. You guys remember that name? And he's kind of an interesting guy, and he, I was actually actually really terrible at applied elect. I remember that. Taylor was awesome though. The part that stuck with me more than the soldering or any of the circuit boards that we worked on way back then was that he told us this story about an alum who had joined a company called Red Hat as the first founding engineer. And we thought, holy cow, that is like the craziest thing ever. And it totally inspired us. I think like we should be entrepreneurs. That person happens to be Eric at the end of the table.
Thank you, and I love how you all highlighted the fact that even though we're the North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics, a lot more goes on at the school than just science and mathematics, and that was a really nice way to do that. Thank you. And we'll just keep sort of moving back and forth. So we'll start with Judd and move back the other way. Judd, particularly in your role as an employer, I wonder if you have some thoughts for us about how we can do a better job as a school, as a state, exposing young people to opportunities both in technology and the concepts of entrepreneurship that each of you has applied.
Another one of the really impactful experiences for me at Science and Math was the mentorship program. I know they still have something along those lines there. I don't know what it's called, but there's nothing like learning what the real world's like and being in the real world. And for me, actually, my mentorship was totally out of left field. I had this itch that I thought I wanted to be an architect. I think I just read like Atlas Shrugged or something, you know. They set me up with this awesome architect in Durham, and I realized I was terrible at it. And sometimes the process of elimination is just as critical. You know, one of the other hats that I wear is I'm on the board of directors of the Research Triangle Partners, so the building that we're in right now. I'm the vice chairman of that, and there are so many incredible companies right here in the Triangle, and I think if we can give the students that are part of both campuses of Science and Math a chance to intern and work with these companies to really understand real world experience. So cool.
Something that I kind of saw as I went to college was that I'm really big into social entrepreneurship. And I've seen that there's a lack of technology to solve like a lot of social issues, especially in the food space. So that's how we got our niche in technology to food. But something that I realized that a lot of my classmates didn't have was that they didn't really know what problems were out there in spaces like ag or that they don't really learn about on a day-to-day basis, so they didn't even know that ad technology or ad STEM. So I would say like more where we could probably put more awareness into what social issues are out there so that we can use STEM fields to make more change.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, knowing what business problems are out there. I'm going to take a slightly different approach. I think one of the most important things Science and Math is doing is the online program. Just the fact that we're trying to reach every student in the state is something no other high school can claim they're trying to do. And so it's really transformative in the sense that every student in the state has an opportunity to learn from these kinds of teachers, to get this kind of education, and the whole North Carolina student population can be elevated. And it's really about getting these kind of online interactions with mentors even for all of these students to really get them on that level of solving real business challenges.
Somebody else mentioned online. I'm just going to give it a quick plug. If you haven't heard about the program, it's actually excellent. I know we talked about it. I'm a little biased, but my junior in high school is actually a student there right now. And I knew he was really into it when he was in a webinar when they do the online teaching. I opened the door to ask him a question, and then I got a text from my wonderful 16-year-old saying, "Dad, on Wednesday nights, text me. Do not interrupt me during class." So it just says how engaging they find that program. He was very excited to be part of it. He loves his high school and he loves his friends, but still wanted that extra academic boost. I think there's a great answer. I'm actually going to call out a couple of the people in the room that really exemplifies what I think is really important, which Science and Math does, and I think more broadly across the state we can do a better job. Two people made a connection today were Suja, who's a data scientist from Appendo, and Cheryl, whose last name I can't remember. I know what you call her, Dr. something, who runs a math curriculum at Science and Math, or Appendo's been helping in Science and Math a little bit, trying to do more with bringing real-world examples of math into the classroom. And I think it's very hard for a lot of people to get excited about math as an ephemeral, I want to go solve this graph theory problem. think it's really easy to get excited when you're solving a real world problem and math becomes a tool. And I think that's something that you don't have to have. I mean, mentors are great. I did one as well. It was formative, but you don't have to have all the PhDs around it. Something that, where you can bring those real world applications. Talk about science is how you grow a plant. That's what gets kids excited. They want to solve real world problems. I think it leads into social entrepreneurship, but it leads into a lot of things where the science and the math and the chemistry becomes a way of solving a bigger problem. And I think it's very easy in the world of standardized testing, in the worlds of grades and SATs. My son was at Columbia, trying to think, they have a 5% admittance rate. Like, yeah, maybe you should have a second plan too. I think in that world that we're so competitive now for all of our kids, making sure that it's not just about the academics, but it's about what can you do with it, what is a tool this is going to help you solve, what are the problems that are interesting, and how does the math, how does the science apply to that world?
And we'll keep the same pattern. I think sort of our last question before we move into some audience participation is if you could think a bit about where you are now in business and think a bit about the future and how we should be positioning for the future as a state and also as a school. Any thoughts about how we posture for those trends you see coming would be great.
One of the reasons North Carolina dug itself out of the hole it was in the 50s and passed, South Carolina used to be the rich state. That they had all the schools, everything. North Carolina dug itself out by education, not only science and math, but the public schools, the Wake County community colleges, and that system, UNC system. All those investments gave us an educated workforce. And remembering that's why jobs relocate to the state. That's why I can put 200 jobs in Raleigh, because I can hire the workforce that I need in Raleigh. I don't have to go to California. I don't have to go to Seattle to do that. Making sure we're continuing to invest in our kids, make sure we're continuing to invest in education, because that's what's going to pay dividends for everybody. And, that's a real lesson of the state's success. And my heart is in areas like data science. I was speaking to a group of kids who are evaluating NC State for graduate school this week, I honestly have no idea. And probably 3/4 of the ones who I spoke to, and they've emphasized machine learning and AI as their area of research. That's what they want to get into, and step back about 3 feet. You don't have to step back very far. Data science, statistics, machine learning, graph theory, all of those things are the same subject at the end of the day. They're all being used to solve the same problem. So if we can get folks excited about those subjects, strong primary education, strong community college, the Carl Ryan initiatives, is going in exactly the right direction for the state. That's what we want to have next year and probably in 20 years.
To add to what Eric said, I think it's so when we speak, so Thomas Moody's on my board of my company, we go pitch to companies together. He's also on the board of Wake Tech and the chairman of the board of Science and Math. And Wake Tech is doing this huge initiative on data science, actually, trying to teach at the community college level those skills and provide those resources needed to learn those techniques, because data science is becoming commoditized. It's almost a new IT. This is a trend we're seeing. Is data science, these techniques, the packages, everything is available open source. People can learn them without going through a four-year degree plus a master's degree. And we can provide that as a state. We can provide those resources the same way we've been the IT hub. And the surprising thing I was going to say is Tom and I are on pitches with Fidelity, with Credit Suisse, but people in New York don't even know that there's 3,000 of their jobs in North Carolina managing their entire back-end IT infrastructure. They're completely clueless. We have a 3,000 job facility in North Carolina. They're completely unaware. And so that kind of thing, we can be that for data science too. It's a back-end, it's under the radar, it's below radar, but it's so much opportunity. There's so much money going into it. And the quality of life in North Carolina, we know that's our priority as a state, that we are always trying to keep that up. That's what keeps our employees here. We can be that too after IT data science as well. There's a negative unemployment rate for data science. That's the other thing.
I guess my perspective is more as a recent grad perspective, because I'm still kind of learning like what's out there and what resources even I have to be able to grow as a person. But I think my basic thoughts would be getting more involved in what companies are around, having what options are around for learning about technologies, and also being able to interact with vendors, which I think Science and Math does a great job of doing, as well as other universities. But feel like that's always be on.
I think the coolest slide that I saw in Todd's remarks about the number of students that are touched by science and math programs and counties, 93 counties. There's 100 counties in North Carolina. I wish we could hit all of them, but the magic of having students from all over is so impactful.
Thanks for those thoughts, and I wanted to make mention and thank specifically, especially Eric, who's on our board of trustees, and Judd, amongst many things he's done, he's been on our foundation board of directors. So in addition to our more recent graduates, these folks have done a lot to uphold our school and put us here into this conversation today. So thank you so much. While you have access to this panel, I want to invite folks in the audience to just raise a hand and ask any questions that occur to you, and never shy. We have Steve Griffin and Bob Galwall. So I'm going to start with Bob since he's close by, and then we'll.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Bob Galwall. I teach both in the residential and online programs. I'm a computational scientist. There's two of us in the room, Taylor Gibson and myself, that both have new data science courses coming online in the fall. And as we're thinking about developing and teaching those courses, if I asked you guys that we really need to keep our eye on the ball on this concept as we develop and think about teaching these courses, what is that ball?
So I'll jump in on this one just because honestly, there's anyone can answer this question, but so Bob, hey, Utah computational biology when I was at science and math as well. But yeah, Dr. Galwall, good to see you. But as far as the data science, yes, I did. As far as data science goes, I think the most important thing, the frameworks, the packages, they're going to change on you. That's just true for all of computer science. You can try and teach the latest thing, but it's going to change on you. So at the end of the day, it's just about learning good modeling techniques, like how to make strong assumptions, how to understand your data, how to really get the garbage in equals garbage out, those kinds of principles, and the mindset that it takes to form a correct model is going to be the core. And if they learn that, they'll learn the new package quickly. So.
Beware of overfitting your data.
I might say it'd be good for the students to be able to work with some of the tools. Like, I agree with what you're saying. They will totally change in 10 years. They've already changed so much. But, get them test accounts with AWS or Google Cloud so they can actually put code in the cloud, work with real data sets. AWS has some great frameworks that are basically free, like SageMaker. So just, we code everything in Scala used, which is a very, sort of a variant of Java.
Think about how data can be applied. So you know exactly what patterns to be pulling when dealing with big data. I think that's something that I've learned from a lot of my life. Definitely want to get out of it.
Thank you for that question. And then Mr. Griffin.
Thank you. I'm Steve Griffin, and it's my 5th year being on the Board of Trustees. And Governor McCrory appointed me, and I asked for this appointment because I was born at the hospital, and I wasn't smart enough to go there like you guys. But I really want to advocate for the school. So my question to you guys is, how do we go from being one of the best kept secrets in North Carolina? Because you guys are such a great reflection of the success of our school and our faculty and staff. How do we get that word out better to our legislators, our companies, and the UNC system?
I did not plant that question.
I actually wish Tom Moody was on the panel here with us to answer this specific question, but I think part of it, and this may sound a little bit contrarian, but I think part of it is taking almost like a business-like approach to it, to fundraising to, getting clients almost, things like that, sales, pitching. It can be challenging, but I think that type of approach can really help spread the word. But you're right, it is tough because a lot of the people who attended the school, not everyone is an entrepreneur. Some of them are introverted, like to keep it low key, and maybe they're not advocates. But I think a more salesy approach, to be very frank, might be helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. I mean, I remember like when I first stopped taking a Coke and I learned, like the astronaut, I learned that she went to science and math. That was a huge inspiration for me. And I was like, whoa, who knew? Like, there's actual real astronaut that came from our state. And I think a lot of my friends also saw inspiration in that. And I think a lot of people can relate to things like that. So finding people who are relatable, who you know, of which careers you know about, people who can say like, wow, that's what I want to be someday. Really, I think those are people. So I would definitely say advertising and people like that open and gosh, using people that we have to really spread the word.
The legislature plays such a critical role. It was absolutely mind-blowing to realize that not only, I knew it was the first of its kind, science and math. I had no idea that it was the last of its kind. It's completely tuition-free. That is so pivotal. It would completely, irrevocably change not just the experience, but the composition of the students. That's the critical piece that would change if it weren't free. So the legislature provides the funding, and I think marketing, I know there's a lot of activities already going on, but I think every member of the House and State Senate should know about every one of the amazing kids from their county that goes to this institution, the amazing things these kids are doing, so that they'll continue to write the checks and fund it in the budget.
Personally, I think Judd should do a caravan tour of all 100 counties.
I'll drive.
But if that's not likely to happen, I'm actually most excited about the Morganton campus, because I think that getting the geographical reach will really help with the question you're asking. I know you and I have had that conversation a little bit. I think science and math in Wake County and Durham County and Orange County is pretty well known. I think our attendance figures kind of attest to that. It's the smaller counties. I'm not on the board of science and math for kids who grew up in Wake County, to be honest. I grew up in Wake County, but I'm on science and math for the kids who were born 6 hours away. It's hard to believe you can get 6 hours away, but I'm pretty sure with enough career growth, you really can get 6 hours away. But I think how opening that rural school is going to make a big difference. I think talking up the stories that come out of that school, talk out of the folks who are not from Wake County. I went to Broughton High School. I probably may not be in this chair, but I'd probably be okay in my life if I hadn't gone to science and math, but there's lots of kids where that's just not.
We have time for one more question. Anybody in our audience like to ask another question? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Amy Wisconsin. I'm the program manager at RTI International. Thank you very much. I'm curious whether within the service that you had, whether you hosted interns from school science and math during the summer program. What some of the things that you've noticed from hosting in terms of challenges, in terms of how you stimulate and to really engage
My startups have been in Raleigh, so doing the mentorship has not been that easy. I've only hosted one kid from Science and Math during Special Projects Week, where they do a 2-week time off. He's now CTO of a startup action in Boston that's raised about $50 million, so he's done all right. We have hired from Science and Math a good bit. We have summer students from Science and Math. Actually, I met one of their fathers just over a while ago at this event. What you notice with Science and Math kids, and I'm going to kind of brag on people on this panel and some of the people in this room, is they're just really smart. You know, when you have a school that gets to pick and choose between the smartest kids in the state, still can't pick them all. You get kids who can do things, who learn fast, who are driven. They almost think about work as a bit of a vacation from their academics, because we don't push them as hard as their teachers do, probably. They get to go home. But if anybody here has the opportunity to work with these kids, they're amazing kids. They're really, really smart individuals. I'm not saying that I was fortunate enough to be one, but as an employer, you have science and math on your resume, it's something that everybody knows, like, well, I was just hire him, Eric's gonna like him. And it's true, I've never hired anyone.
I can comment on this as well. We have 3 full-time employees from Science and Math, and we also have 3 interns from Science and Math. 2 of them are freshmen in at Chapel Hill, and one of them is a sophomore at Chapel Hill. And so I would say there's a reason why they actually approached me. They're like, hey, can I do something for you, et cetera. And so they're go-getters, right? They'll go get what they want. The other thing is they're surprisingly grounded. They're not like, they're not at my company trying to learn what's the hottest thing in artificial intelligence. They know they're not maybe there to like provide on that level of value yet, but they want to learn what they can, and they know it's like a stepwise process. It's surprisingly realistic expectations coming out of folks who you might think are, maybe they're too high in the sky, too like, trying to reach for the stars or something, but they have a very methodical mindset, one step at a time mindset, which I've been very impressed with. Other than that, I would say the team approach actually is something I wanted to plug previously. Maybe like one intern at a time. It's hard to get one intern that can do everything you need and actually get value out of the intern. It's more of a giving than a taking from the intern. But I found that when you have 3 of them and they all are about the same age and you put them on the same project, there's a lot of value there. They're learning and you're actually getting something as well. And so they form teams very well because science and math, you develop these bonds, you learn how to work together, you know everyone on campus. And one of them is from the online program. Brilliant guy who works perfectly well with everyone else. The culture spreads, and so it's really nice.
Well, I don't think I can really speak to interns, but my team is, like 3 of us are in 6 to 10 people, and I think there's a reason for that, because we all work really well together. We know how we work, kind of have like the same basis. But that being said, we also like expand from that. But it's been really beneficial for us because we know exactly how we've worked together in the past. We've grown together over the past, 4 years, 6 years actually. We've known each other for so long. But yeah, the bonds that are formed between people at our respective life and you can't really get that anywhere else. So it's definitely very valuable.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. So we would love more interns from science and math, especially data science and math. We've hired over the years a number of science and math grads, and it doesn't have to just be math modeling or science related stuff. One that comes to mind in particular was an intern at my second company, and he finished up with science and math, went off to college. He was from like the Fayetteville area, and he was struggling, I think, to find his thing, and even post-college. And I think in part due to the internship he had at my second company, we were doing a lot of work with Samsung, as I recall, in South Korea. And he was helping on that a little bit, and he developed an aptitude, or realized he had an aptitude for languages, so he started learning Korean, which was sort of the eye-opening to him that he had this talent, and ended up transferring to a university in China, Beijing Normal University. He graduated from there about a year ago, and we rehired him, this time full-time, and he's playing a pretty critical role in our China team and setting up the subsidiary in Shanghai.
Okay. Thanks for that question. And thanks to our panelists. So let's take a moment to transition. We'll let you get back to lunch. Sorry, I interrupted it. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask Mike Martin, who Michael and I were at the school together. I was class of 86. Mike is class of 87, and we lived on the same hall. I was responsible for Mike's health and welfare his junior year because I was the proctor on hall at the time. And so Mike has, probably 6 months after he graduated from school, he started at IBM and has been there, built a fantastic career there. In fact, there's a great photograph that Michael showed me one time where this is your senior year, of the 30 kids on your hall, 3 of you went to IBM eventually. So we've had a long history with IBM. And so, Mike, thank you for helping wrap this up. Let's be good.
Thank you, Rob. So while you were all listening to the team that had such incredible stories to share with you, I was busily writing, okay, how do I summarize this all in a bow? And it's a little difficult to do so, but I will try my best. my roommate when I was in science and math, incidentally, is from Black Mountain. And that's another case of where I wouldn't have gotten to know this particular individual. And that was Steve Roberts, who actually was at IBM for a time. He was working out of DC on air traffic control. So the impact that the schools had on the state of North Carolina and on all of us individually, I think is profound. And that's going to be the topic of my summary here. We learned a great deal from each of the speakers. And as per usual, when you bring a passionate group of people together, you leave the richer for the experience. So I'm going to condense a couple of things that all of you have said into some small comments. Kevin started with flexibility and focus on the idea that you're going to get wet. And if you want to learn, you're going to get wet, Morganton. Judd talked about decisions in 120 milliseconds, which is an interesting thing to think about. Kosh talked about education as open source, right? Not open source education, but education as open source. And that there's a negative unemployment rate for those that are making the right kind of things these days. Eric talked about solving real world problems and investing in education. And that's what the state of North Carolina has done, as evidenced here. Srata talked about carefully choosing the people and mentioned that 3 of the folks in her company are science and math grads. There have been times when I've talked at the Alumni Association about the old nerd network, and I think you're seeing that kind of in play here. The future of workplace is not really as predictable as any one of us might like, and the nature of work and employment is changing at an astoundingly fast rate. What used to take generations, and I had a whole thing planned about what happened with agriculture and fabrics and furniture and all that, but I'm not going to do that. I'll say that for another day. But it's changing now in years, whereas it used to take generations to change. And for us at IBM, we recognize this. The advent of AI is incredibly important. It will change all of our lives in the room. It will change how we are employed, how our kids are employed, how we act with one another. And it's going to be a great opportunity for those of us that are ready to accept it, and for us that are stewards of communities to help people make the change, because this is going to be an industrial revolution the likes of which the world has never seen. How do we do that? Well, you got to be curious, and I think you heard that from each of the panelists here. You have to try new things. You have to learn quickly, and be comfortable with ambiguity. If you can do those things, those are going to be things that will help you. The good news is that we stand on the shoulders of those visionary leaders who saw in North Carolina the opportunity for big things a long time ago, and worked to make this state competitive on a global basis. The pipeline for our talent is absolutely strong with our university and community college system that are the envy of many states and countries for that matter. And just as those visionary leaders saw fit to create an advanced STEM educational high school here in North Carolina over 40 years ago and develop the talent the state needed to propel our economic growth, we are standing at a unique crossroads right now to lead the way on data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. And the panel very clearly exhibited that. And I think for those of you who came here, that's probably one of the things you want to hear and reinforce in yourselves. Are you on the right track doing the right things? I'm going to close with a part of the state of North Carolina state toast, because I like this. This speaks to me immensely. And it reads in part, where the weak grow strong and the strong grow great. It's pretty clear that we are growing great as a result of the collective commitment to North Carolina and to one another. I'd like to thank you for coming today. I'd like to thank Chancellor Roberts for the chance to try to summarize what was an amazing opportunity to understand a little bit more about what all of you have done so far, where we're going next. And as a business leader to other business leaders in the room, I completely endorse the idea of hiring science and math grads. That's what we do at IBM as well. We look for this and we bring them on for interns. We take every opportunity to develop the local talent. I could walk to my office right from here too, so I know where I speak. So let me welcome back to the podium Kevin Baxter to close us out and tell us how we can get wet.
Front row is a splash zone for getting wet, just look out. I will be exceptionally brief, which is very difficult for me to do. We are going to be in touch with you after today's event to share some details about what you heard about today, as well as the program recording. We also would like to invite you to please not be strangers. For some of you in the room, you have strong, lasting relationships with our school. For others, this is your first opportunity to learn more about us.
please consider how you can intersect with our programs, our amazing talented faculty, students, and staff, and how we can try to take full advantage of this transformative opportunity for a transformative institution. We are excited about the place we are at today, where we're going, and where we can get together. So thank you all so much for your attendance today, and please feel free to stick around and engage one another as your schedules permit. Have a good day.